Okie doke, let's have a look at some more introductions. We don't have a lot here. I think we've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was a slightly tricky question or topic. I'm not sure how I would address this one. Personally, I was thinking about if I were to answer this, I would probably say something like, why does this intergenerational change occur? And I'd probably say something in today's world, globalization. So I would probably talk about the linguistic, media, financial, cultural ways that the world is interconnected these days. So that's how I would probably address this first part. What can be done to change it? I would say it cannot be changed. We can't undo this. So therefore the process is irreversible. So that's how I would address this. So I paraphrased and answered the question in sentence 1. Intergenerational change in terms of tradition and of traditions and culture would seem to be inevitable, because here it simply states that they change. It doesn't say that it might change or will it change, or it's a statement of fact. Inevitable. Culture, traditions change. Nothing we can do about it. Why? As I say, in my view, globalization in its many aspects is partly responsible, and I would then go on to explain why I don't think this process can be changed. Okay, so let's have a look. It is felt that the people's behaviour has changed over the time. Well, right, first, right. The people's. Why do we have definite articles? It is felt by whom? It doesn't say anything about we think, we feel. It's simply a statement of fact. Culture and traditions change from generation to generation. That's it. So people's behaviour. Now, behaviour is not strictly traditions and culture. The definition of culture is that which we have in common, that which we share. You know, whether it's culture of drinking tea, football culture, going to football matches, English drinking culture, something that which certain group or groups of people share, have in common. That's essentially one component of culture. The traditions, what people do over time, like leaving school at 18, going to university, finding a job instead of starting a family. That's a tradition, you know. So behaviour doesn't quite work, doesn't quite encapsulate that. And the younger generation do not follow their parents' tradition and like to be different. Okay. Now, it has accrued. Well, accrued, that's not a very good word. I think you may mean occurred. Accrued, to accrue means to pick up something, to collect. Like if you put money in a bank, you accrue interest on that investment or a deposit. You know, so accrued, I don't really know if we would use it. It has occurred. I think that's better than accrued, because that doesn't quite mean what you think it does. Since the world's communication has changed dramatically between the people, we don't need articles here, between people. World's communication, what you mean? Methods of communication? What are you talking about? Are you talking about what I was going to be hinting at in terms of globalization? Because this doesn't really say much. It's like communication has changed dramatically. What are you talking about? Online communication, so people can communicate with each other around the world? Because that doesn't really explain that point too well. I believe that we have to accept this change in our lives, but we should be able to pick up only the good points of them. What does them refer back to as a pronoun? Them. what's it refer back to? What, the change in our lives, the gut points of our lives? And modify our routine with new and reasonable culture. Well, I'm not really sure what this sentence means, to be frank. I mean, I can see possibly the general idea, but it's asking what can be done to change it. So are you saying that we cannot change and modify our routine? What routine? I mean, routine is something that you do every day, like, you know, you get out of bed at 7, you clean your teeth, you eat your breakfast, you go to work. That's routine. So I'm not quite sure what that means here with new and reasonable culture. Okay, with the time passing, well, okay, but we don't need that. Or you could change it with the passing of time. I think that's better. That's the collocation, with the passing of time. That's the phrasing that we use. With the passing of time, people's values and norms. Values are not traditions, really. Not traditions, not in the strict interpretation of the word. A tradition, values are not quite the same. A tradition is something that you pass down from generation to generation, like, you know, if everybody in your if every male member of your family becomes a doctor, that's a tradition. Or if every male member joins the army, or if every daughter goes into teaching, that's a tradition, something that is handed down, you know. Values are that which you believe, usually some kind of moral judgment, like abortion's wrong, or the gay marriage is wrong, or, you know, these kind of things. Some deeply felt, usually religious-based beliefs, you know. So I don't really know if values and not. I mean, it's kind of close, but it's not exactly the same. Okay. Passing of time, undergo, and it should be, yeah, undergo a radical change. Now, is it a radical change? It doesn't say radical. It doesn't say dramatic change. It doesn't say a radical change. It's simply change. Because, you know, it can be a minor change. It doesn't have to be a radical, dramatic change. Not especially. It doesn't really say anything about the rate of change. It simply says that change occurs. That's all it says. In my opinion, as lifestyles, as people's lifestyles transform as a result of development in living. Now, I get the general idea. You're talking about, you know, change, but what does that mean, though? Are you talking about technological developments such as internet, communications? Because this doesn't really say a lot. The development in living, we can understand more or less what you're getting at, but it's not as precise as it could be. Okay, new generations neglect the old culture and convention and tend to follow new values and norms. So we've said mentioned that twice, values and norms. So slightly repetitive, and it's not quite the same. Traditions and culture. To preserve the past cultures and traditions, awareness must be increased. Awareness of what? Must be increased through holding cultural and traditional festivals and events. Okay, so that's kind of answering the question. Could do with being a bit more precise and focused, but okay. Now what's this next one? Changing culture and tradition is being noted by whom? Who is noting this? Why is it passive? It simply says culture and traditions change. In generations of various periods of time. What does that mean? You mean from generation to generation? Because that's not quite the phrasing that we would use. You've got to be careful in paraphrasing that you don't use something that doesn't really mean the same thing, you know? Is being noted in generations of various periods of time. You mean from generation to generation. I believe that advancement of technology, people going abroad, or adaptation problem. Adaptation problem? What does that mean? Could be principal reasons or the principal reasons for this change, and will suggest revoking the social stigma of imposing culture upon one individual and starting spreading it by love. I don't wish to be overly harsh, but I have no idea what that is talking about. So you've kind of answered the first question. Technological advancements, people living abroad, seeing different cultures, etc. Okay, I can kind of see where that is going, where, you know, or where the essay would be going, but I'm not quite sure about this next part. Revoking the social stigma of imposing culture upon one individual and starting spreading it by love, I'm sorry, I'm not very clear as to where that is going at all. It's claimed that culture, well, it's not claimed. It's not a claim. It's a statement of fact. A claim is when somebody says something that may or may not be true. However, there is no claim. No one is making it. It's a statement. Culture and traditions change. It doesn't say some people say, some people think. Now that would be a claim. According to some, X is Y, blah, blah, blah. That would be a claim. This is simply a statement. And why is it would? Well, again, why are we using modal verbs of possibility? It doesn't say that they might or they would. It says that you know, they simply change. It is claimed that cultural norms will be altered while they are passing down to the next generation. Okay. Changing lifestyle and point of view among new generation, what, among the new generation or the younger generation, could be known, what are the main cause of this trend. So elderly, the elderly, if it's a group, the elderly, the poor, etc., in the definite article, are seriously expected to put more value on core traditions. How can you do that? In order to teach youth to respect those values. Well, it's not about respecting them, is it? It just says that culture and traditions, and it's not values, that they change. So I kind of see where it's going, but it's pretty general, it's pretty vague. It doesn't really say anything. You know, it needs to be a bit more precise and focused so we get the gist. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yes, right, 5. Okay, right, now, right. Except it's not argued. It would be argued if it said some people say, or according to some, but it doesn't say that. It simply says culture, traditions change across time or generations. As the main reason, due largely to advances, what you mean, technological advances. Technology has deeply affected traditions and culture as time has gone by. What technology are you talking about? What traditions and culture, and how has it deeply affected them? It's a little bit vague. In spite of being inevitable in many aspects, education and media could play important roles to prevent cultural alteration. Okay. Could play important roles. Okay. Now, you know, my own answer is quite vague. Also, as I say, I found this a particularly tricky question. Globalization. So I would have to say in paragraph 2 what I actually mean by that. Is it technological advances in what? In communications, in media. So, you know, being a little bit vague, okay, that's understandable, because I say this is a tricky question, but still, the more that we can say a little bit about you know, where the essay might be going, the better it would be. So this last one here, not too bad, not too bad. As I say, it is a tricky question, though. It is. I don't like that. I don't know what book we got it from, but not a very good question if you ask me. Anyway, that's enough for now. So, not too bad, not too bad. A few need a little bit of work in terms of grammar and vocab, but in general, not too bad. So, I'll post you another topic or pay manual and see what you can do with that. Okay.